The upcoming season promises to be one of the most electrifying ever witnessed by fans of the Californian team. After months of rumors, discreet negotiations, and much speculation in the press, the long-awaited confirmation has finally arrived. Seth Curry is about to join the roster. The official announcement should come as early as next week, once the front office resolves the ongoing situation involving Jonathan Kuminga, which has been a subject of debate behind the scenes for months. This move represents more than just the arrival of a good shooter. It is a piece that could profoundly change the way the team behaves offensively. For a long time, analysts believed that Seth had consistent three-point shooting numbers, hovering around 41% or 42%. But the statistics proved that his efficiency went further, surpassing the 45% mark. This level puts him very close to his brother, Stephen Curry, and gives the team something unprecedented. Two elite shooters with almost unstoppable accuracy playing side by side. For the fans, this means constant spectacle. After all, it is not common to see two specialists from the same family in the same roster, with the potential to ignite entire games solely through perimeter firepower. It is a scenario that changes the shape of any match and forces opposing defenses to completely rethink their approach. The most painful memory of last season still lingers. In the playoffs against the Minnesota Timberwolves, the team simply failed to establish consistency from beyond the arc. Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, Jerome Robinson, Buddy Hield, and even the young Brandon Podziemski felt the weight of responsibility. There were even moments when Draymond Green, notoriously unreliable from long range, took risks to try to save the team. This lack of support made it clear that Steph needed a reliable partner to share the burden. Now, with Seth on board, that problem has an immediate solution. Imagine a postseason scenario where Steph is suffocated by the opposing defense, relentlessly marked by a specialist like Ozzer Thompson or a Kelly Oubre Jr. glued to him from start to finish. Before, that meant an offensive collapse for the team. Now, the ball can swing until it finds Seth, who, free on the perimeter, becomes a lethal threat. It is precisely this type of play that can shift the narrative of a series. But the front office did not stop at Seth. The franchise's planning also includes other important additions, such as Gary Payton II, the possible arrival of DeAnthony Melton, along with the experience of Al Horford and the two rookies from the last draft. Of course, not all of them will have an immediate impact. One of the rookies is expected to be sent for development outside the league, while Will Richard will likely gain minutes in the G League. Twee, meanwhile, may earn a two-way contract and play in Santa Cruz, expanding the coaching staff's options. Despite the reinforcements, one concern persists: the lack of height. The roster still features only one player above 7 feet, 2.13 Quinton Post. Against teams that thrive on physical play, such as the Denver Nuggets, Oklahoma City Thunder, Houston Rockets, and even the Dallas Mavericks, especially if Cooper Flagg takes on a prominent role, this deficiency could become a major obstacle. The absence of multiple big pieces in the paint could compromise performance in a long series. Because of this, the front office knows adjustments are necessary. Kuminga's situation will be the turning point. If he does not fit into the immediate plan, a trade becomes inevitable. The team is willing to sacrifice some draft picks to acquire impactful pieces now. Among the possibilities are names like Nick Richards, Royce O'Neal, and Ryan Dunn, who could provide depth without breaking the bank. Another alternative circulating in the background is a potential deal involving Moody and Buddy Hield in exchange for Nikola Vucevic. The presence of a consolidated center alongside the Curry brothers would be both a strategic and emotional boost, offering consistency in the paint and experience in decisive moments. The idea of Seth receiving passes after Vucevic screens is enticing. Imagine Steph handling the ball, drawing a double team, and finding his brother positioned in the corner. That would be almost guaranteed 3 points. It is this type of scenario that transforms expectations into reality and explains the excitement surrounding Seth's arrival. Time is running against the team. Training camp is approaching, and the uncertainty around Kuminga must be resolved. Fans are tired of waiting, and months of indecision have already cost valuable opportunities. Emoni Bates, for instance, could have been a long-term investment, but slipped away. The same applies to Thomas Bryant, although his case was quicker as he signed swiftly with the Cavaliers. Bates's loss, however, stings more as he possessed attributes that would have fitted perfectly into the team's style, shooting and versatility. Bates, once considered the #1 prospect of his draft, is still only 21 and has plenty of room to grow. Instead of betting on him in a development-friendly environment alongside veterans, the hesitation allowed the Sixers to snap him up. For them, it could turn out to be a goldmine. For the Californians, it is another chapter of frustration. This uncertainty shows how costly delays in strategic decisions can be in such a competitive market. When a franchise projects insecurity, players and agents hesitate to commit to the project, and the NBA does not forgive hesitation. Opportunities disappear quickly. What remains now is to settle Kuminga's future before training begins. If he embraces the project, excellent. If not, he will be moved, and there is still a market for him, as his potential remains high. He may not bring back a consolidated star, but he could certainly yield rotation players who make a difference in playoff games. The message that Seth's arrival sends is clear. The franchise wants to win now. There is no longer time to wait for young promises to develop. The window is short, and everyone knows it. After 2027, rebuilding will be inevitable. Until then, every decision must be calculated to maximize title chances. This is the last great breath of a historic generation that is not ready to say goodbye. And it is in this context that Seth takes on a role greater than simply being another reinforcement. His presence alters the mathematics of opposing defenses. Before, doubling Steph was the most common strategy, since his teammates rarely punished that choice. Now, it becomes a huge risk. Leaving Seth open is handing away free points. It is a cruel choice for any opposing coach. The discussion around the lack of height on the roster gains even more strength when we consider the real chance of adding Sotto to the group. The mere mention of his name has already stirred social media and raised excitement among fans worldwide. The young Filipino center carries not only the physical attributes needed to fill an obvious gap in the team, but also a gigantic cultural significance. Standing at an impressive 18 meters, Kai is impossible to ignore. He is not just someone who intimidates in the paint, but a talent who knows how to use his height intelligently. His game awareness, defensive ability, and offensive versatility are traits that would fit perfectly into the style of the Californian franchise. Instead of being just another tall player who protects the rim, Kai presents himself as a modern center, mobile, capable of spacing the floor with mid-range shots and even acting as a facilitator, drawing defenders and freeing up shooters. This is exactly the type of athlete the team needs to balance its rotation. The combination of Seth and Steph on the perimeter is already something that keeps opponents awake at night. Now, imagine adding a center like Kai, who not only brings rebounds and rim protection, but also the ability to create space and play in sync with the fast-paced movement that defines the team's style. It would be a complete transformation, capable of taking the tactical scheme to a new level. But there is something even more powerful about this potential signing: the cultural impact. The Bay Area, where the team is based, is home to one of the largest Filipino communities outside the Philippines. Kai's arrival would create an immediate emotional connection with that audience. It would not just be the signing of a promising player, but a symbolic gesture of recognition and representation. Millions of Filipinos around the world follow Kai's every step as if it were a collective mission. Seeing him reach the NBA would be a source of national pride. Seeing him wear the jersey of the Californian team, one of the league's biggest franchises, would be historic. The engagement it would generate cannot be underestimated. The impact would be felt in the stands, in jersey sales, in viewership numbers, and even in the Asian market as a whole. For the executives, this is not just a sporting move, but also a strategic one. The marketing surrounding Sotto is already enormous, even before his official entry into the NBA. Bringing this factor into the equation multiplies the possibilities for the franchise's brand growth on a global scale. However, the most important thing is that his talent also meets the team's immediate needs, making this move doubly valuable. Kai has built his path in challenging environments. He left home at a young age to pursue development in more competitive settings, playing in the Australian League and, more recently, in Japan's B-League. At every stage, he showed not only technical progress, but also personality and resilience. His presence has become a symbol of inspiration for young Filipino athletes and others around the world who dream of following the same path. For the franchise, having a player like this in the locker room is also an asset. He carries a mentality of fight, of overcoming obstacles, of knowing the weight of representing something greater than himself. This energy can be contagious for the group, especially in a season where the focus will be entirely on winning now. Returning to the sporting aspect, the arrival of Seth Curry is already in itself a turning point. But it is clear that the team still lacks balance between perimeter and paint. Seth addresses the issue of offensive spacing and the constant outside threat. Kai, on the other hand, could solve the physical fragility in the paint and provide new tactical options. Together, they would transform the way the team is perceived by rivals. A clear example would be in series against teams like the Denver Nuggets. With Nikola Jokic dominating the paint, relying only on Quinton Post would be almost suicidal. With Kai in the squad, the defense would have an anchor capable of at least making life harder for the Serbian, as well as ensuring greater presence on the board. This would pave the way for the Curry brothers to do what they do best: punish from the perimeter. The same applies to facing young and athletic teams like the Thunder or the Rockets. Kai's physical presence would bring an extra layer of protection against drives and quick cuts, as well as balancing the physical battles that often decide playoff series. Against the Mavericks, his defensive mobility would be essential to keep up with versatile and unpredictable players. This is where the board's vision for the future connects with the present. The team knows it cannot wait too long. The championship window is open, but it will not remain so forever. After 2027, rebuilding will be inevitable, and wasting the chance to strengthen the roster now would be a serious mistake. Seth's arrival shows that the mentality is to win immediately. The possibility of bringing in Kai indicates that this mentality is not only about shooting, but also about filling historical gaps. The fans have already noticed this. The atmosphere on social media is one of expectation, but also of anxiety. Supporters know the season could be the last great act of this generation. Any miscalculation could be costly. On the other hand, every precise move increases the hope of seeing the franchise competing on equal terms with the league's biggest powers. And, in the middle of all this, the saga involving Kuminga remains a central piece. His future will be defined in a matter of days, and the team's next move will depend on it. If he stays, he will be tested in an environment where the margin for error is minimal. If he leaves, it will open the door to immediate reinforcements, which could include exactly the type of player the roster is missing. The truth is that Seth's arrival and the possibility of Kai joining are part of the same narrative, the desperate search for balance between present and future. It is a project that cannot fail because the opportunity is unique. The franchise has already proven over the last decade that it knows how to reinvent itself. Now, once again, the moment has come to decide whether it can turn promises into concrete achievements. The combined effect of these moves is not limited to technical aspects alone. There is also a psychological dimension that cannot be ignored. The simple fact of having Seth and possibly Kai on the roster already changes the way opponents step onto the court. Even before the ball is tipped, there is an emotional weight in facing a team that gathers so much firepower on the perimeter while at the same time gaining solidity in the paint. Opposing coaches know how exhausting it can be to try to limit Stephen Curry over the course of a series. When he is on the floor, the defense has to work twice as hard, run constantly, and wear themselves out physically just to keep up with him. Now, imagining that effort multiplied by the presence of Seth is almost cruel. It is the certainty that any lapse, any late rotation will be punished. Defenders' minds already enter under pressure, knowing there is no margin for error. If we add to that a young and athletic center like Kai Sotto, the impact is even greater. Instead of worrying only about the perimeter, opponents would also have to deal with an imposing presence in the paint. This forces any coach to completely redraw their game plan. What used to be a simple strategy, suffocate Steph and live with the other's mistakes, turns into a multi-piece puzzle. This kind of psychological pressure changes games. A historical example of this is how the Warriors became practically unbeatable during their peak years, when offensive spacing was so absurd that defenses entered mentally defeated in the first quarter. Something similar may be taking shape again. With the addition of Seth and the real chance of bringing Kai, the team recovers that intimidating factor. But it is not just about what happens on the court. There is also the narrative outside of it. The NBA is a league that thrives on stories, symbols, and moments that transcend the game. Two brothers, known worldwide for their precision, playing together already creates a unique atmosphere. Add to that the possibility of a Filipino icon joining the same roster, carrying with him millions of passionate fans, and we have one of the most powerful narratives of the present day. The marketing, of course, will explode. The team's games will reach peak viewership in different parts of the world, especially in Asia. Shirt sales will skyrocket, with Seth's name no longer remembered as a supporting piece, but as an essential element, and with Kai emerging as a symbol of representation. Sponsors will see a gold mine in terms of global engagement, but unlike many moves that prioritize only the commercial side, here the sporting impact is equally relevant. In the locker room, chemistry is also a key point. Seth brings with him a mindset built over years of resilience. Unlike others who entered the league as instant superstars, he had to walk a path full of obstacles, prove his worth in every opportunity, and never get complacent. This discipline will be crucial in a roster that needs total focus. Kai, in turn, represents youth, energy, and a hunger to prove his value on basketball's biggest stage. He carries the weight of millions of expectations, but also the inspiration of someone unafraid of challenges. This mix of perseverant veteran mentality and motivated youth may be exactly the fuel the franchise needs right now. The Kuminga dilemma, therefore, takes on even more complex contours. Keeping him may mean investing in raw talent that has not yet proven consistent in big moments. Trading him may open the door to bring the ideal complement, whether in the paint or in versatile wings capable of balancing the roster. It is a high-risk, high-reward decision. And here lies the central point, the time window. Management knows they cannot afford to miss. The current project has an expiry date. Every wasted season is an opportunity that will not return. The roster cannot afford another year of frustration like the last, where the perimeter failed and the paint was exposed. The arrival of Seth is the first piece showing the strategy has shifted. The possible signing of Kai would be the second piece. Kuminga's fate will be the third. When these three gears fit together, we will have the definitive version of the team for the next 2 years. In terms of rotation, the possibilities are intriguing. Imagine a lineup with Steph and Seth on the perimeter, Melton bringing defensive intensity, Draymond orchestrating the coverage, and Kai anchoring the paint. This combination unites experience, offensive talent, defensive energy, and physical presence. Against traditional teams, this would mean spreading the floor almost completely, forcing defenses to stretch, while at the same time guaranteeing internal solidity. Another alternative would be to use Seth as a luxury sixth man, leading the second unit with shooting and spacing. In situations where the main star needs rest, the attack would not collapse. This depth is something that was missing last season and could be decisive in long series. The most fascinating aspect, however, is imagining how this configuration would affect the mindset of fans and even the league itself. The team, which many already saw heading inevitably towards a rebuild, suddenly resurfaces with renewed weapons. It is as if the last great breath of this historic generation had been given new life. And in sport, when such a narrative is built, the players also feel the impact. Stepping on the court knowing there is still a living title project is motivating at a level difficult to measure. Meanwhile, the backstage work continues to boil. The front office is monitoring names that could complement the roster if the Kuminga trade materializes. Nikola Vucevic remains a tempting option, offering experience and offensive consistency. Royce O'Neal, with his versatility, is also on the radar. Nick Richards, with height and rebounding, appears as a more modest but effective alternative. Everything depends on what they are willing to sacrifice. At the end of the day, the feeling is that the franchise stands at a crossroads. The arrival of Seth has already shifted the direction. The chance of bringing Kai could elevate the project to another level. Kuminga's fate will be the final piece of this puzzle. What is at stake is not only the next season, but the legacy of an entire era. And so, faced with so many moves, expectations, and possibilities, it becomes clear that we are about to witness a historic season. The arrival of Seth already represents a milestone, and the possible inclusion of Kai Sotto could completely transform the franchise's destiny. The dilemma involving Kuminga will be resolved soon, and on that will depend the balance between present and future. What no one can deny is that the Californian team has not yet spoken its last word. There is hunger, there is talent, and above all, there is the certainty that the next 2 years will be decisive in either writing or missing out on another chapter of glory in this journey. Now I want to hear from you. Do you believe the franchise is on the right path? Can Seth and perhaps Kai truly change the course of the season? Leave your opinion in the comments because your voice is part of this story. And if you made it this far, don't forget. Drop a like to support the channel and subscribe right now so you don't miss any update on this saga that will still give us plenty to talk about. Also, turn on the notification bell because the next videos will bring hot backstage info, in-depth analysis, and all the news in real time. This season promises to be unforgettable, and you will follow it all with us.